Okay, so let's take a look at this recent article from wishtv.com that states the following. Richard Allen, the man arrested in the 2017 double murder of Abigail Williams and Liberty German near Delphi, told a state conservation officer he was in the area on the day of the killings, but his report may have been considered unfounded, a police source tells iTeam 8. Allen, a 50-year-old resident of Delphi, went to the conservation officer right after the teen's murder on February 13, 2017, and said he was on the Monon High Bridge that afternoon but didn't see the two girls, the source says. Williams and German were dropped off near the bridge on the day of the murders. Their bodies were found the next day. Allen's statement was forgotten until recently when Indiana State Police became frustrated with the status of the Delphi investigation and asked a group of investigators to look over files related to the case. Investigators believe Allen is the man on the bridge in the cell phone videos and in the sketches released by police, the source tells iTeam 8. The police source also confirms that the recent 5-week state police search of the Wabash River in Peru was connected to the Delphi investigation. It was initiated after Keegan Kline told police they would find a cell phone and a weapon in the river. Kline, 28, a figure linked to the Delphi murders who has not been charged in the case, revealed that information while being questioned about the deaths of Libby and Abby. That evidence was never found, and Kline is known for lying to investigators. Okay, so let's pick up on a few things that stick out to me immediately in this article. Now we're going to start a little bit further down than you would expect. The search of the Wabash River. Now I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. That doesn't surprise me at all. Now the way that I'm reading that is that they've searched this river, they haven't found any incriminating evidence. We all know that we've got Keegan Kline, who is probably the biggest porky teller that ever walked the face of planet Earth. There is a word that Tom Webster uses for him, but I can't remember what he calls him. Pinocchio? Something like that, I think he calls him. Anyway, let's get back on topic here. The first thing that, as I say, stands out to me is the fact that they may have searched this river and they haven't found any evidence. Now, has that then led them to go back and look at previous files? The term frustrated is used in that article. And could that really encapsulate all of this, really? The fact that they've been pinning their hopes on this Keegan Kline angle, the Keegan Kline evidence or evidence they could find in the Wabash River. And that has literally come to nothing. It's another porky pie from Keegan Kline. Now, obviously, nothing at this point in time has been confirmed, but this does actually make quite a lot of sense to me personally. The fact that we've got this case which has been going on for many, many years. We had the Keegan Kline angle, which seemed a really good lead at the time concerning the Anthony Shots profile. I can just see in my mind here, okay, they're getting the runaround from Keegan Kline. What's literally the last thing we can do here? Okay, just go back and check anyone that we've spoken to early on in the investigation. Let's just recover our tracks. But the frustrating part in all of this is that we're not talking about 12 months ago that these murders took place. I still can't believe that it's taken this long to go back over information. And I think it was true. I listened to a live stream this morning from Sleuth Intuition, another channel on YouTube. I think he makes a very valid point regarding the fact that he wanted this to be classed as a cold case so they could go back and review all of the documentation, all of the leads. So why did it take that long? Like 5 years. I mean, has this guy come forward to law enforcement? Has he come forward to this conservation officer and put himself at the scene of the crime? Have they checked out this individual's social media? With his daughter being on the bridge just a few years before these murders took place? Someone who liked to go out hiking? Someone who resembles the man walking across the bridge? An individual who owned a jacket very similar to the one seen in the video? A man who fits the build, the stature, the height of the individual on the bridge, the age. An individual who lived less than 2 miles from the Monon High Bridge. Someone who was a local resident, someone who worked in town, worked at a chemist, served people daily, tens if not hundreds of local residents. Now I can understand recently if this press conference that they conducted did allude to the fact that, okay, we went back through some evidence or looked back through some past evidence, or we went back to the start in this case, and we believe this is the man on the bridge. I could understand if they framed it like that. But there's an apology due here, I think. Not to me, not to someone who doesn't even live in America, but to the residents of Delphi. This should never have been some kind of, well done everybody, we've done such an amazing job. Have you, though, really? What sticks out in my mind in this case is that just shortly after the discovery of the bodies of Liberty German and Abigail Williams, the police were already conducting small press conferences discussing, you're not in any danger, we don't believe you've got anything to worry about, all that sort of stuff. This man lived a stone's throw away from the crime scene. This person was free for almost 6 years. I don't think there's anything at this point in time, if this article is to be believed, and the Murder Sheet podcast recently is to be believed, that this was just some chance encounter with previous past information. I don't think there's any back-patting here, or stroking of hair, or well-dones to be given out. There needs to be a serious look at what went wrong in this case, not what went right. Because there's very little that went right with this case up until this point. So now let's take a look at an earlier part of that article there. It says that the report may have been considered unfounded, a police source tells I-Team 8. Now, unfounded. When I hear the word unfounded, the first thing that comes to my mind is the fact that we have these rumours that Richard Allen was either committed to some kind of rehab facility or some kind of help facility after these murders. Obviously, we don't know if that's true. I've had nothing to confirm that whatsoever. But all I can picture in my mind is someone who's not mentally well. Maybe they come forward and say, yep, I was there. They think, actually, was he really there? And they just don't believe this guy. Is that a possibility? I mean, I can't foresee that being a possibility. I mean, how can it be unfounded, really? If someone says that they were there, unless they're deemed to be, as I say, mentally unwell or mentally incapable of telling the truth, then to me it's a little bit strange. I mean, do they think that he's actually inserted himself into the investigation on purpose for some reason? And they never believed that the killer would actually do such a thing? As I say, this article at this point in time has no way, shape or form being confirmed. But it does make sense in a lot of ways. The way that they searched this river for 5 weeks and potentially may have come back empty-handed. That does make sense. We know what kind of individual Keegan Kline is like. We know that just by looking at his police interview. And that is the biggest indicator of that individual's personality in terms of his ability to tell truth or lies. And when they use the word unfounded there, do they mean the conservation officer's version of events was unfounded, or what was told to him? It's not particularly clear. It says that he told a state conservation officer he was in the area on the day of the killings, but his report may have been considered unfounded, a police source tells I-Team 8. So, is that the state conservation officer's report is unfounded? Or the individual who's given him the report? As I said earlier, we've had rumours that Richard Allen was either committed to some kind of a facility or volunteered himself to some kind of rehab facility. Was this based on mental health, or was this for mental health reasons? Was this for drug and alcohol use? We don't know. We don't even know if that part is actually factual. But I wonder if it does tie in somewhere with that word unfounded. Did they just simply not believe that individual? And then we take a look at the most concerning part of that article there. Allen's statement was forgotten until recently, when Indiana State Police became frustrated with the status of the Delphi investigation and asked a group of investigators to look over files related to the case. Now, to me, that just doesn't even seem plausible. Doesn't even seem possible. 12 months after the case, fair enough, maybe even 2 years. Maybe if this was a case that just appeared on your local back page of your newspaper. Not a international high profile crime like this. You know, I live in the UK. People in this country talk about this case. It's in the newspapers over here. This was a case that had the FBI involved. It had a lot of different agencies involved. They weren't short of manpower, that's for sure. So I don't believe it should have taken almost 6 years to revisit previous evidence or previous leads. Another concerning part of that article is the fact that we don't just have mention here of Richard Allen being on the trails or maybe nearby to the scene that day. It actually states that he was on the Monon High Bridge that afternoon but didn't see the two girls. So this man has apparently come forward to the police and said, I was on the bridge that afternoon. The bridge, the actual bridge, not the surrounding area, not in a forest 500 metres away or a mile away, whatever. He's actually admitted to being on the bridge. Now, can you imagine this guy's terror and fear? Well, you would imagine that's exactly what he was feeling when the video and the voice clip came out, because it's quite obvious that he didn't realise that he was being recorded that day. Now, if that somehow coincides with Richard Allen then checking himself into some kind of facility, then that would make a lot of sense to me, because the last place that you would want to be after your face and voice is put out there for the world to see is out there in public. But this man did return to public. Law enforcement continued to investigate this case for many, many years. This man was allowed to roam free, serve people out in the public domain. How has that happened? And what exactly can we believe in all of this? We've had talk of the Murder Sheet podcast, the red Jeep, that Keegan Kline said he picked up the killer. That supposedly came from a source close to the investigation. Now, is that true? Is that not true? Are they trying to find out who is leaking this information and they're giving false information out to try and find the inside source? And I'm talking about law enforcement there. What exactly can we believe at this point in time? It's almost impossible to decipher the truth from just a load of rubbish. I mean, everything in this case at this point in time is starting to seem unbelievable. Nearly 6 years. 6 years to revisit someone who actually said he was on the bridge that day. Not the surrounding area, the bridge. An individual who lived less than 2 miles from the Monon High Bridge. Please let me know your own thoughts and theories and feelings regarding these latest revelations, this latest article. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're interested in the Delphi murders. And as always, thanks so much for joining me for this particular video. I look forward to seeing you all again for the next one. Take care. Cheers.